Say this and she'll fall in love. 8. Good morning phrases to win her heart. Stoicism. What if I told you that the way you say good morning could be the difference between her thinking about you all day or forgetting you exist? I'm going to share with you 8 powerful good morning phrases that ancient Stoic philosophers would have used to win hearts, but with a modern twist that actually works in today's dating world. Stay until the end because phrase number 8 has gotten me more genuine responses than any pickup line ever could. And I'm going to show you exactly why it works, backed by both ancient wisdom and modern psychology. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. How many times have you sent a generic, "Good morning, beautiful," text and gotten a lukewarm response? Or worse, been left on read? Here's the thing. I used to send the same boring messages everyone else does. Good morning. Hope you have a great day. Maybe throw in a heart emoji if I was feeling bold. And you know what happened? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But then I discovered something fascinating. The ancient Stoics, guys like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, they understood human psychology in ways that modern dating coaches are just catching up to. They knew that true attraction isn't built on compliments or trying to impress someone. It's built on something much deeper. Today I'm going to show you how to combine 2,000-year-old wisdom with modern relationship psychology to create morning messages that don't just get responses. They get her thinking about you differently. They position you as someone who's emotionally mature, thoughtful, and unlike every other guy in her DMs. And if you're skeptical, good. That's exactly the mindset a Stoic would have. Question everything, test everything. That's what we're going to do today. But first, let's talk about why most good morning messages fail spectacularly. The average woman receives dozens of messages like these every day. Good morning, gorgeous. Hope you have an amazing day. Thinking of you this morning. Here's the brutal truth. These messages are invisible. They blend into the noise because every guy sends them. They require no thought, no personality, and they put all the focus on her appearance or your feelings about her. The Stoics had a different approach. They understood that true influence comes from understanding human nature, not from trying to manipulate or impress. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking." That's the key. It's not about what you say to her. It's about the mindset behind what you say. Are you coming from a place of neediness and validation seeking? Or are you coming from a place of genuine confidence and value? The 8 phrases I'm about to share with you aren't magic spells. They're conversation starters that demonstrate specific attractive qualities: emotional intelligence, independence, curiosity about her as a person, a life of your own, leadership without dominance, vulnerability without weakness. Each phrase is designed to make her pause and think, this guy is different. And that pause, that moment of curiosity, that's where attraction begins. Phrase 1. The Stoic Reflection. Phrase number 1 is what I call the Stoic Reflection, and it goes like this. Good morning. I was just thinking, what's one thing you're genuinely excited to tackle today? Now, before you roll your eyes and think this sounds too simple, let me break down why this works on multiple psychological levels. First, you're not complimenting her appearance. You're not even complimenting her at all. Instead, you're showing interest in her mind, her goals, her aspirations. This immediately sets you apart from 99% of the guys messaging her. Second, the word tackle is crucial. It implies challenge, growth, accomplishment. You're not asking about her day. In general, you're asking about something she's actively working toward. This shows you see her as someone with agency and ambition. Third, notice how the message starts with, "I was just thinking." This is a Stoic principle in action. Marcus Aurelius spent much of his time in reflection, examining his thoughts and motivations. By starting this way, you're positioning yourself as someone who thinks deeply about things. I remember using this with Sarah, a girl I'd been talking to for about a week. She was a marketing manager, always seemed busy and driven. When I sent this message, instead of the usual "thanks you too" response, she wrote back a 3-paragraph message about this presentation she was nervous about but excited to give. That single text turned into an hour-long conversation about her career goals. her fears, her ambitions. By the end of it, she was asking me about my goals too. Why? Because I showed genuine interest in who she was as a person, not just how she looked. The Stoic principle here is simple. Focus on what you can control, your own actions and responses, rather than trying to control her reaction to you. Phrase 2, the assumption of value. Phrase number 2 is the assumption of value. And it's probably the most counterintuitive thing you'll hear today. Morning. I have a feeling you're going to surprise someone today. Hope it's in a good way. I can already hear some of you thinking, wait, that doesn't make sense. What does that even mean? And that's exactly why it works. This message operates on several levels. First, it's playful and slightly mysterious. She has to think about what you mean. And when someone has to think about your message, they're automatically more invested in the conversation. Second, you're making a positive assumption about her day. Not a generic hope you have a great day, but something specific and intriguing. You're suggesting she has the power to impact others positively. Third, that little smirk. Emoji at the end adds just enough. Playfulness to show you're not being completely serious. It's cheeky without being inappropriate. The Stoic principle behind this comes from Epictetus, who taught that we should focus on our impressions and judgments, rather than external events. By starting her day with the impression that she's someone who creates positive surprises, you're actually influencing her mindset. I used this with Lisa, a teacher I'd matched with on a dating app. Her response was immediate. Okay, now I'm curious. What makes you think I'm surprising? That led to her telling me about how she was planning to do something special for her students that day. We ended up talking about creativity in teaching, childhood memories, the impact teachers have, all from one slightly mysterious good morning text. But here's the key. This only works if you're genuinely curious about her response. If you send this and then don't follow up with real interest, it comes across as manipulative. The Stoics were always authentic in their interactions because they understood that lasting influence comes from genuine virtue, not clever tricks. Phrase 3, the shared experience. Phrase number 3 is what I call the shared experience, and it looks like this. Good morning? There's something oddly satisfying about morning coffee, and that first quiet moment before the world demands your attention. What's your version of that? This message is pure Stoic philosophy in action. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about finding peace in simple moments and the importance of morning reflection. But from a psychological standpoint, this message does 3 powerful things. First, you're sharing a vulnerable moment. You're admitting that you need quiet time, that the world's demands can be overwhelming. This shows emotional depth without being heavy or negative. Second, you're creating what psychologists call manufactured intimacy. You're sharing something personal, and then asking her to share something equally personal. It's like you're both revealing small secrets. Third, you're demonstrating that you're someone who appreciates simple pleasures and mindfulness. In a world of constant chaos and social media noise, this positions you as grounded and present. I sent this to Emma, who I'd been on 2 dates with but hadn't texted much between dates. Her response completely changed our dynamic. Oh my God, yes! For me, it's that first stretch when I wake up and my cat is still sleeping on my feet. It's like the only time my brain isn't already making lists. That message told me so much about her. She's a planner. She's nurturing, cat owner. She values peaceful moments. It gave us so much to talk about. We ended up having this beautiful conversation about morning routines, meditation, the importance of slowing down. The Stoic wisdom here is about finding contentment in the present moment rather than always chasing future achievements or dwelling on past mistakes. When you demonstrate this mindset, you become incredibly attractive because most people are stuck in constant anxiety about the future or regret about the past. All right, we're halfway through these 8 powerful phrases, and I want to take a quick moment to address something important. I know some of you might be thinking, this seems like a lot of effort for just a text message. And you're right, it is more effort than sending, "Good morning, beautiful." But here's what I've learned. The quality of your communication determines the quality of your relationships. The guys who put thought and intention into their messages are the ones who build deep, meaningful connections. The guys who send generic texts get generic responses and generic relationships. If you're finding value in this breakdown so far, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It helps the algorithm show this content to more guys who need to hear it. And if you disagree with anything I've said, leave a comment. I read every single one, and some of my best content comes from your feedback. Also, I want to know, which of these first 3 phrases feels most authentic to your personality? Drop a comment and let me know. No judgment here. The key is finding approaches that align with who you actually are. All right, let's get into phrase number 4, and this one might be the most psychologically powerful of the bunch. Phrase 4, the Stoic challenge. Phrase number 4 is the Stoic challenge, and it goes like this. Morning. I've been thinking about that thing you mentioned. The situation with specific reference. How are you planning to approach it? I'm curious about your strategy. Now, obviously, you need to customize this based on a previous conversation you've had with her. This could be about a work project, a family situation, a personal goal, a difficult decision she mentioned. This message is incredibly powerful for several reasons. First, you're proving you actually listen. In a world where most people are just waiting for their turn to talk, you're demonstrating that you remember and care about what she shares with you. Second, you're asking for her perspective and strategy. You're not trying to solve her problems or give advice. You're treating her as capable and intelligent, asking to understand her thinking process. Third, the phrase, "I'm curious about your strategy," positions her as someone who approaches challenges thoughtfully. You're framing her as strategic and capable, which most people rarely experience. The Stoic philosophy here comes from their emphasis on examining our responses to challenges. Epictetus taught that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. By asking about her strategy, you're acknowledging this wisdom and showing that you see her as someone who takes ownership of her responses. I used this with Rachel after she'd mentioned feeling stuck in her job but being scared to look for something new. My text was, "Morning. I've been thinking about that job situation you mentioned. How are you planning to approach figuring out your next move? I'm curious about your strategy." Her response was immediate and detailed. She told me about her plans to update her LinkedIn, reach out to former colleagues, maybe take some online courses. But more importantly, she thanked me for asking and said, most people just tell her what she should do without asking what she's already considering. That conversation led to us meeting for coffee, so she could brainstorm out loud with someone who would listen without judgment. 3 weeks later, we were dating exclusively. The key here is genuine curiosity without agenda. You're not asking so you can swoop in and save her. You're asking because you respect her ability to handle her own life. Phrase 5, the vulnerability reveal. Phrase number 5 is the vulnerability reveal, and this one requires some courage. Good morning. I woke up thinking about specific goal project you're working on. Honestly, a bit nervous about it, but the good kind of nervous. What's giving you that feeling lately? This message breaks one of the biggest rules. Most dating advice gives men, never show vulnerability or uncertainty. But the Stoics understood something most modern dating coaches miss. Authentic vulnerability creates deeper connections than fake confidence ever could. Marcus Aurelius's entire journal, Meditations, is basically him being vulnerable about his fears, struggles, and uncertainties. He didn't pretend to have everything figured out. He showed his humanity. Here's why this message works. First, you're modeling healthy vulnerability. You're sharing something that matters to you and admitting you have feelings about it. This gives her permission to be equally open. Second, you distinguish between good nervous and bad nervous. This shows emotional intelligence. You understand that anxiety isn't always negative, that some nervousness comes from excitement and growth. Third, you're asking her to share something that's challenging her in a positive way. This leads to conversations about goals, dreams, and personal growth rather than complaints or surface-level topics. The psychological principle here is called graduated disclosure. You share something moderately personal, which encourages her to match that level of openness. It creates a sense of mutual trust and understanding. I used this when I was starting this YouTube channel. I was terrified about putting myself out there being judged, potentially failing publicly. So I texted this to Anna, a good morning. I woke up thinking about this YouTube channel I'm starting. Honestly, a bit nervous about it, but the good kind of nervous. What's giving you that feeling lately? Her response completely surprised me. She told me about a pottery class she'd been wanting to take, but kept making excuses about. We ended up having this incredible conversation about fear, growth, and why we avoid things that might make us happy. That conversation didn't just deepen our connection, it actually motivated both of us. She signed up for the pottery class, and her encouragement gave me the final push to upload my first video. The Stoic lesson: courage isn't the absence of fear. It's taking action despite fear. When you model this mindset, you attract people who share your commitment to growth. Phrase 6, the philosophical prompt. Phrase number 6 is the philosophical prompt, and it might seem unconventional for a morning text. Morning. Random thought. Do you think people are generally too hard on themselves or too easy on themselves? I keep going back and forth on this. I know what you're thinking. This is way too deep for a morning text. But hear me out. This message works because it does something most guys never do. It engages her mind in a meaningful way. You're not asking about her appearance, her plans, or making small talk. You're asking her to think about human nature and share her perspective. The beauty of this approach is that there's no right or wrong answer. Some people will say we're too hard on ourselves, others will say we're too easy. Both perspectives lead to fascinating conversations about self-improvement, accountability, compassion, and personal growth. From a Stoic perspective, this touches on one of their core concepts, the discipline of judgment. How we judge ourselves and others determines much of our happiness and effectiveness in life. What makes this particularly powerful is the phrase, I keep going back and forth on this. You're showing that you think deeply about things, but you're not presenting yourself as having all the answers. This humility is incredibly attractive because it suggests you're secure enough to admit uncertainty. I sent this to Jessica, a law student who was incredibly analytical and thoughtful. Her response was a voice note. She was walking to class and said she couldn't type out everything she wanted to say about this question. She talked about how she's incredibly hard on herself, about grades and career prospects, but she noticed she makes excuses for her health and fitness. We ended up having this deep conversation about different areas of life and how we hold ourselves accountable. That one text led to a 2-hour phone call that night. Not because I was trying to be deep or philosophical, but because I was genuinely curious about her perspective on something I'd been thinking about. The key is authenticity. Don't send philosophical prompts unless you're genuinely interested in the answers. People can sense when you're being fake, and it kills attraction instantly. Phrase 7, the future projection. Phrase number 7 is the future projection, and it's designed to create positive anticipation. Good morning. I have a weird prediction. By the end of today, you're going to have learned something that surprises you. Could be big, could be small, but something unexpected. Let me know if I'm right. This message operates on several psychological levels that most people completely miss. First, you're creating what's called a psychological priming effect. By suggesting she'll learn something surprising, you're actually making her more likely to notice and remember unexpected things throughout her day. You're literally shaping her experience in a positive way. Second, you're giving her a reason to text you later. Not in a needy way, but in a fun, curious way. You've created natural continuation for your conversation. Third, you're positioning yourself as someone who believes good things happen. This optimistic mindset is incredibly attractive because most people are focused on what might go wrong. The Stoic connection here is their emphasis on focusing on what we can influence. You can't control what happens to her during her day, but you can influence her mindset and awareness. I sent this to Maria on a Wednesday morning. That evening, she texted me, "Okay, you were right, but in the weirdest way. I learned that my coworker speaks 3 languages fluently. We've worked together for 2 years, and it never came up until today. How did you know?" That led to a conversation about hidden talents. assumptions we make about people, and interesting things we've learned recently. It was engaging, light, and fun. Exactly the kind of conversation that builds attraction. But here's the brilliant part. Even if nothing particularly surprising happened to her, she still would have thought about my message throughout the day. Either way, I'm on her mind. The psychological principle here is called intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes your predictions will be spot on. Sometimes they won't. But the unpredictability makes it more engaging, not less. This only works if you follow up appropriately. If she texts you that evening about something surprising that happened, you need to be genuinely interested and engaged. Don't just say, "I told you so," and move on. Ask questions, show curiosity, build on the conversation. Phrase 8, the authentic appreciation. And now we get to phrase number 8, the one I promised would be the most powerful. I call it the authentic appreciation. And it goes like this. Morning. I was just thinking about how it's rare to meet someone who, hope your day matches your energy. This message is powerful because it combines several psychological principles with Stoic wisdom about virtue and character. Let me break it down. First, you're appreciating something specific she said or did. Not her appearance, not generic qualities, but something that reveals her character or thinking. This could be how she handled a difficult situation, an insightful comment she made, the way she treats service workers, her passion for something she cares about. Second, you're acknowledging that this quality is rare. You're not just saying, "She's great," you're saying, "She stands out from most people in a specific way." This makes the compliment much more meaningful. Third, hope your day matches your energy is a beautiful way to end because you're wishing her well in a way that reflects who she is, not just generic good wishes. The Stoic principle here is about recognizing and appreciating virtue in others. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about learning from the good qualities he observed in people around him. I used this with Sophie after she'd told me about staying late to help a new coworker understand a complex project, even though it meant missing her workout class. My text was, "Morning. I was just thinking about how you stayed late to help that new guy understand the Johnson project. It's rare to meet someone who puts team success over personal convenience without making a big deal about it. Hope your day matches your energy." Her response was immediate. "This is the sweetest text I've ever received." Most people don't even notice stuff like that. That told me everything I needed to know about how she usually gets treated. Most guys probably focused on her looks or made generic compliments. I focused on her character and values. We ended up talking about leadership, teamwork, what motivates us to help others. These are the conversations that build real attraction and compatibility. This only works if it's authentic. Don't manufacture appreciation for things you don't actually admire. Don't compliment her character if you haven't observed her character. The power comes from genuine recognition of genuine virtue. If you can't find something specific to appreciate about her character or actions, you probably don't know her well enough to be texting her good morning messages anyway. The psychology behind why these work. Now let me explain why these 8 phrases are so much more effective than typical good morning texts. First, they all demonstrate what psychologists call high-value behaviors. Instead of seeking validation or trying to impress her, you're showing that you have your own thoughts, goals, and perspectives. You're not just reacting to her. You're living your own life and inviting her to share in it. Second, each message requires her to think and respond with something meaningful. Generic compliments get generic responses. Thoughtful questions get thoughtful answers. When someone invests mental energy in responding to you, they become more invested in the conversation. Third, these messages position you as different from every other guy. While they're commenting on her photos or sending generic good morning texts, you're engaging with her mind, her goals, her perspectives, her character. The Stoic foundation beneath all of this is crucial. These aren't manipulation techniques. They're authentic expressions of Stoic principles. Focus on what you can control, your own communication. Value virtue and character over superficial qualities. Practice genuine curiosity about others. Share your authentic self, including vulnerabilities. Create positive experiences through your perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Life is opinion." These messages help create positive opinions and experiences through thoughtful communication. But remember, these phrases only work if they align with who you actually are. If you're not genuinely curious about her thoughts, don't ask philosophical questions. If you don't actually appreciate her character, don't compliment her character. Authenticity is everything. The goal isn't to become someone else. It's to become the best version of yourself and communicate in a way that reflects your genuine interest and respect for her as a person. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. Before we wrap up, let me address the 3 biggest mistakes guys make when trying to implement these approaches. Mistake number 1, using these as templates instead of inspiration. Don't copy these word for word. Use them as frameworks and adapt them to your personality and your specific situation with her. Mistake number 2, sending deep messages too early. If you just matched on a dating app yesterday, don't lead with philosophical questions. Build some rapport first. These work best when you've already established some connection. Mistake number 3, having an agenda beyond genuine connection. If you're sending these messages just to get a response or manipulate her feelings, it will come across as fake. The power comes from genuine curiosity and appreciation. Remember, the goal isn't to get her to fall in love with a text message. The goal is to create meaningful conversations that allow both of you to determine if you're compatible for something deeper. The Stoics understood that trying to control outcomes usually backfires. Focus on being your authentic self and communicating thoughtfully. Let the results take care of themselves. All right, that's all 8 phrases and the psychology behind why they work. Here's what I want you to do. Pick one phrase that feels most authentic to your personality and try it this week. Not all 8, just one. See how the conversation develops compared to your usual approach. Then come back and let me know in the comments how it went. What worked? What felt natural? What would you modify? If this video helped you understand attraction and communication better, subscribe and hit the notification bell. I post new content every week about building authentic confidence and meaningful relationships. And if you want to dive deeper into Stoic principles for modern relationships, check out the video I'm putting in the description. It covers how to handle rejection, maintain your self-worth, and build genuine confidence that attracts the right people. Remember, the goal isn't to become someone else. It's to become the best version of yourself and communicate in a way that creates genuine connection. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.